Coming to you live from Nairobi, Kenya. Welcome to Africa Focus, where we bring you news from across the continent right here on Switch TV Kenya. My name is Joel Church and our sign language interpreter is Tracy Dorcas. Talk to us via social media platforms Switch TV Kenya, Joel Chacha M on Twitter, and as well on Facebook, Switch TV Kenya and Joel Chacha. Send in an SMS via 111 But first, here are stories making headlines. Cyclone Eloise bring floods to Mozambique city of Beira. Egypt begins COVID-19 vaccination campaign with China's Sinopharm becoming one of the first countries in Africa. Protesters in Tunisia call for end to corruption and police repression. Hundreds of demonstrators took to the streets of Tunisian cities to protest police repression, corruption and poverty following several nights of unrest marked by clashes and arrests.
Hundreds of demonstrators took to the streets of Tunisia cities on Saturday to protest police repression, corruption and poverty following several nights of unrest marked by clashes and arrests. Saturday's protests come as the North African country struggles to stem the novel coronavirus pandemic, which has crippled the economy and threatened to overwhelm hospitals. Over 6,000 people have died from COVID-19 in Tunisia, with a record of 103 deaths reported on Thursday. The government on Saturday extended a nighttime curfew from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. and banned gatherings until February 14th. But protesters took to the streets in several parts of the country, including the capital Tunis and the marginalized interior region of Gafsa, to demand the release of hundreds of young people detained during several nights of unrest since January 14th. Protests were also held in the coastal city of Sfax on Friday. Much of the unrest has been in working-class neighborhoods where anger is boiling over soaring unemployment and a political class accused of having failed to deliver good governance a decade after the 2011 revolution that toppled a long-time dictator Zine El Abidine Ben Ali. Because 10 years ago there was the greatest theft of the revolution from the Tunisians and their demands committed by the Islamists. Economic misery exacerbated by novel coronavirus restrictions in the tourism-reliant nation have pushed a growing number of Tunisians to try and leave the country. The police have said more than 700 people were arrested over several nights of unrest earlier this week that saw young people hurl rocks and petrol bombs at security forces who responded with tear gas and water cannon. Where is this country going? Let them all leave and leave us alone. We will occupy the streets, either us or them. Human rights groups on Thursday said at least 1,000 people had been detained. We want to build a new consciousness, not the one they are financing through TV channels. We won't allow that anymore. It is over. We are fed up with it. We can't take it anymore. Tunisia last week marked 1 decade since Ben Ali fled the country amid mass protests, ending 23 years in power. Tunisia's political leadership is divided, with Prime Minister Hichem Mechichi waiting for Parliament to confirm a major cabinet reshuffle announced last Thursday. Clifford Ndubi, Switch TV.
Meanwhile, Egypt begins its COVID-19 immunization program, becoming one of the first countries in Africa to vaccinate its citizens, with a doctor and a nurse receiving the Chinese-made Sinopharm jab. Namukana Samuel filed the report.
Egypt began its COVID-19 immunization program, becoming one of the first countries in Africa to vaccinate its citizens, with a doctor and nurse receiving the Chinese-made Sinopharm jab.
In regards to the efficiency of the Sinopharm vaccine, It is an inactivated one, which means that it consists of the coronavirus, but in an inactive mode. Clinical trials prove that it has an 89% efficiency in producing antibodies.
Egypt, the Arabs' world's most populous country, with over 100 million people, received its first batch of the vaccine in December. Health Minister Hala Zayed said the inoculation will be available to all health workers for free. She also paid tribute to over 330 doctors in Egypt who have died from the virus. Dozens of other medics at the hospital were also vaccinated on Sunday. Over 35 medical centers will be set up nationwide in the coming weeks to administer the vaccine, the health ministry has announced, with citizens urged to register online. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said that the inoculation drive will begin with healthcare workers, followed by those suffering from chronic diseases and later the elderly. Zayed said citizens who have the means should pay for the vaccine in the coming months. Egypt has officially registered over 160,000 novel coronavirus infections, including nearly 9,000 deaths. Health officials have warned that low testing rates means the real number could be at least 10 times higher. Zayed said Cairo has inked deals to receive vaccine shipments from British, Chinese and Russian firms for a total of around 100 million doses. Earlier this month, the minister said Egypt would receive 40 million doses, mostly of the AstraZeneca Oxford jab, via the Gavi Vaccine Alliance, with the aim of inoculating 20% of its population.
We booked 40 million doses from the manufacturing company and another 40 million doses via the Gavi Vaccine Alliance and 20 million from a third one. Therefore, more than 100 million doses were booked for Egypt.
Zayed said that the North African countries was also working on producing a vaccine locally with a view to distributing it to the rest of the continent without providing details on which vaccine. Earlier this week, the World Health Organization warned that Africa was in danger of being left behind as countries in other regions strike bilateral deals driving up prices. The Indian Ocean archipelago of the Seychelles began vaccinating its population against the coronavirus earlier this month, the first African nation to do so.
After several delays because of the health crisis caused by the coronavirus pandemic, the government in Mali has authorized the reopening of schools and the resumption of classes, providing masks for students. But some teachers deplore a lack of soap and disinfectant products and the difficulty for students to respect social distancing in crowded classrooms.
Students have resumed school in Mali after the government officially authorized the reopening and the resumption of classes, which saw several delays due to the Covid-19 pandemic.
The start of the school year has been successful here. The children have come. All the teachers are present. There are no absentees.
However, not everyone sees the move in a positive light, as although the government has provided masks for the students, some teachers deplore a lack of disinfectant products and soap for hand washing. Many others doubt the ability to uphold social distancing guidelines in crowded classrooms.
We have talked a lot about the coronavirus. We are trying to get them to understand the dangers and especially the measures that need to be taken.
Since yesterday, the day before yesterday, we've been distributing masks because the state has sent us a large quantity of masks for each child. Not only in public schools, even private schools have received them. Mali has officially registered some 8,000 cases of Covid-19 and more than 320 deaths. Many parents and school staff are concerned about these figures rising. Hamidou Kalubali, treasurer of the School Management Committee of the Lhasa Basic School, appears a bit frustrated with the situation, saying social distancing is hard to achieve.
We know very well that social distancing is not easy at all because here we have only one public school, and as you can see, there are too many students. It's hard to manage classes. We need more classrooms. We need more space. We've been supplied with the kits, masks, but what we are sorely lacking is soap and alcohol bleach. iodized alcohol. We had to pay for that ourselves. I had to pay for the soaps.
L'alcool, comment il s'appelle?
Malian authorities also announced a resumption of cultural, artistic and tourist activities from Tuesday, as well as a reopening of cultural infrastructure and places of recreation. Lincoln Mbogo, Switch TV.
Meanwhile, health authorities in Abuja unveil ultra-cold chain vaccine storage equipment acquired by Nigeria in preparation for the arrival of 100,000 doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine expected at the end of January or early February. Nigeria's National Strategic Cold Store already has 11 walk-in refrigerators which can store vaccine at up to 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, such as the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, and 4 walk-in freezer rooms for vaccines that need to be kept below zero. Although there is insufficient storage for the Pfizer vaccine, which requires temperatures of negative 70 degrees Celsius, however, the 3 newly acquired ultra-cold chain refrigerators can be used to store the Pfizer vaccine and have the capacity of to store up to 400,000 doses.
Each of these ultra-cold chain equipment has a capacity of 700 liters. So 3 of them have a total capacity of 2,100 liters. So we have more than enough space for the 100,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine that will be brought in the first instance. But what we do have coming to the country is the Pfizer vaccine that requires about minus 70 degrees Celsius. This is why we are proactively making sure that we have these vaccines, and also bearing in mind that additional vaccines might be brought from the COVAX facility that will require these types of temperatures. The 100,000 doses that we're expecting from the COVAX facility by the end of January/early February will be able to occupy only 500 liters. So what it means is that what we have here can take a little over 400,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine. We will be focusing more on those vaccines that do not require this kind of complicated cold chain mechanisms, right? So the Oxford AstraZeneca types of vaccine that require +2 to +8 degrees Celsius are what we're going to be focusing on. Most importantly, we know that it's easier for us to move vaccines that we are used to. Our routine immunization vaccines are stored at +2 to +8, most of our routine immunization vaccines, and we expect that since health workers are already used to managing those types of vaccines, those are the types of vaccines that we should be investing our resources into.
Time to take a breather here on Africa Focus. Of course, stay with us. Coming up, it's estimated that 14% of Kenyan women aged 15 to 49 have experienced sexual violence at least once in their lifetime. After the break, we tell you the story of a sister from hell. Welcome back to Africa Focus. My name is Joel Church and our sign language interpreter is Tracy Dorcas. Moving on, it's estimated that 14% of Kenyan women aged 15 to 49 have experienced sexual violence at least once in their lifetime. But how exactly do these cases come about? Imagine being fixed for rape by your own blood sister. This was the case for Sharon, not her real name. Robert Ouma with the report.
17th April 2020 is a day Sharon, not her real name, will never forget as long as she lives.
Actually, my sister was dating someone else where she's married. Yeah. So, alikamwambia she's not married, but ako na mtoi. So, when the husband called me, so I had to solve the case as fast as I could, because najua sikutaka story spread kwa kila mtu, protecting family issues and all that.
Her married sister allegedly fixed her for rape for exposing her extramarital affairs through her marriage.
My sister kept on calling me and there's a friend of mine atakupatana na wewe. Mimi akamwambia it's okay then tutapatana naye. So they had a fight with the husband and the boyfriend akaingilia katikati. So I had to help them to solve the case because I'm the firstborn and we don't have parents. Sindio tulipatana, akaniambia actually I'm in Kariobangi, so usitoke Huruma. Just give me only 5 minutes. And to be honest, within 5 minutes he was there. We talked actually nilikuwa nakula apple. So nikaniambia, apple seems to be sweet. Nikampea moja and also nikapea my friend of mine mwenye alikuwa ameni escort. So tukakula apple. In that process of talking, alikuwa na like, switch to escort kupeleke where I stay.
From Huruma stage, she can't tell how she found herself in a bed at Eastleigh.
So I found myself in Eastleigh, hapo ndio nikampata. Yeye amekaa, mimi niko kwa bed, amekaa next kwangu. Yeah. For naked, and he was having the handcuffs. Alikuwa na handcuffs. He also had the gun with him. So he told me, when you tell anybody what's going on, and yeah. So after that ndio niliamka and nikamwambia it's okay then. Akanipea towel na sabuni, akaniambia just go and freshen up. He also told me wale watu wako hapo nje, there are people who sells drugs and we don't arrest them.
According to the Ministry of Health, rape is the most highly unreported crime in Kenya. It is estimated that 1 out of 20 women in Kenya report rape and 1 in 6 will seek medical assistance.
It happened, so I could not even trust my sister. And now then I connected from the beginning to where the point imefika. That's when I realized my sister, she's involved in that. Then nikaenda kwangu, nikarudi kwangu kwa nyumba, kumeza hizo madawa nini, and I became so depressed. Nikaongea nao, nikaelezea, wakanitia EMSF. EMSF ndio alikuja, wakanipeleka hospitali. Yeah. So I was given the ALVs and everything. In the middle of that, nikatoka hapo, I was taken to Shauri Moyo. That's when they were supposed to take note of the process, the case and everything. So that's when it realized kumbe my sister was involved in this thing.
All this time, her sister was constantly informing the perpetrator of Sharon's move in finding justice, which made the process even more complicated.
Now, I could not imagine now where after we are, and this is my sister doing this to me, and it was so painful. And now I just woke up one day and nikamwaga hizo dawa zote. I tried to commit suicide. Nikauza vitu zingine za nyumba, zingine nikapeana.
Sharon later found a refuge in a safe house in Karen, headed by Consul Atawa Ithaka, where she is healing and bitterly raising her baby, whom she found as a result of the incident.
Because we understand rape case and society, stigmatization, and yeah. And also bear in mind there's something happened in my past, and once I faced stigmatization, so I know the pain, and I could not wish to face such kind of pain again.
The country has witnessed 7% increase in the number of all forms of violence since COVID-19 struck the country in March, according to the Health CAS Mercy Mwangangi. At least 5,000 cases have been recorded, many of them involving girls under the age of 18.
Most of them will cry, they cannot even talk anything. But after some time, you can tell they're able to kind of admit this happened, and I'm able to pick up my life and move on. So you can tell someone hearing from the, and even the difference of how they came after a month, even after 2 months or 3, supposing someone stays here for like 4 months, the second month you can tell this someone is ready to start business.
The story of Sharon is just one among many that go unreported. with survivors sometimes not living to tell their stories. And though having veered from the path she wanted for her life, Sharon is grateful that she is alive and is hoping that one day justice will be served.
On to other news. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, speaking in his capacity as chair of the African Union, expressed concern over the rise in vaccine nationalism, which he says has led to some rich countries acquiring 4 times as many doses as they actually need for their population. Ramaphosa was addressing the virtual Davos summit of the World Economic Forum.
We are concerned about vaccine nationalism. The rich countries of the world went out and acquired large doses of vaccines from the developers and manufacturers of these vaccines. And some countries have even gone beyond and acquired up to 4 times what their population needs. And that was aimed at hoarding these vaccines. And now this is being done to the exclusion of countries, of other countries in the world that most need.
Meanwhile, more than 2 million people have been forced to flee their homes within their own country's borders owing to violence engulfing Africa's Sahel region, according to the United Nations. The humanitarian response is dangerously overstretched in an area covering parts of Burkina Faso, Chad, Mali, and Niger, as said the UNHCR, which is the UN Refugee Agency. According to the UNHCR spokesman Boris, the figure of 2 million internally displaced people had more than quadrupled since the start of 2019, urging the violence must stop. Amidst the hills and valleys that stretch as far as the eye can see in the eastern Gabon lies Moanda, a mining town where opulence rubs shoulders with mastery. Glaring inequalities have emerged between the employees of emblematic company Camilog, which is the almighty company that exploits Gabonese manganese, and the other inhabitants of the region.
We need a total and complete follow-up from Camilog. Camilog has the means. They have the means to contribute so that everything works well for the people and for the town.
Here in this route, we have no electricity, we have no water, we have no public pumps, and we want to have water and electricity.
When I look around, it's so nasty. It's not normal. You see Moanda, a town like Moanda. Camilog is here on site, and Moanda is disgusting. If someone has to clean it, Camilog has to do it.
As you have seen for yourself, it has been about 2 or 2.5 years since Camilog decided to show that these actions are concrete. I think that 2 years out of 50 or even more is not enough to judge. Participation efforts have only been going on for 2 years. What has been done is good, but there is still a lot to be done. That means that there are still under-integrated neighborhoods, that there are secondary roads that are in lamentable state. Camilog knows this.
The town of Moanda has experienced a certain decline, and today it is in the face of this sad reality. With nostalgia for the past and with the incessant demands of all our partners, that the company, with, as I say, the support of the ERA-MET group, has decided to reinvigorate its CSR policy through concrete actions.
Mauritius begins vaccinating its citizens against COVID-19, which is a crucial step for the Indian Ocean archipelago nation as it seeks to revive its hard-hit tourism industry and welcome visitors again. The 100,000 doses of vaccines were donated by India. An on-duty doctor at Victoria Hospital in the central town of Katra Bons was the first to receive the jab, with about 100 medical staff expected to be vaccinated by Tuesday. Health Minister Kailesh said the campaign would initially target frontline health workers, staff treating patients with COVID-19 and workers meeting passengers at the airport. Well, that's all here on Africa Focus today, but keep the conversation going on our social media platforms at Switch TV Kenya on Twitter and at Joel Chacha M still on Twitter, and on Facebook it's Switch TV Kenya and Joel Chacha. My producer has been Harry Chimean. My name is Joel Chacha, and our sign language interpreter has been Tracy Dorcas, and director Simon Nganga. Until next time, do have yourself a good weekend.